I mean, you may have already shared this already,
Yeah.
but like, what would you say is your most enjoyable part of the boot camp?
Most enjoyable part. Definitely getting a job, but like inside the boot camp, I think once things start clicking, like everything is not going to fully click, but like just bits and pieces, like, oh, I know what that's going to do. Or like as you're doing a lecture and like someone's explaining something and you're kind of like, oh, this is going to happen or that error is going to happen. Once that starts happening, you start like realizing like, oh, maybe I can do this. So there's many of those moments. I wouldn't say like there's one moment, but like those are the moments that I enjoyed during boot camp.
Yeah, it sneaks up on you.
Yeah. And I guess we'll get into it later, but like you know so much more than you think you do. And then once you're actually like have to prove it, like you're like, oh, I actually do know this stuff.
It's true. It's sneaky. So what would you say, do you have any advice that you would give students?
I thought about this one, and my advice is like there's two types of people. Like there's people that need to like compare themselves to actually like have that motivation. That's the type of person I am. Like looking at the Tuckers, looking at the Jess, like they're at the top of the class. So when I see them, I'm like, wow, Tucker's still going home and he's putting in like 5 hours after boot camp. I need to put in 10 because he's double as a developer I am. So like, but if that's not your personality, don't do that. Like, because it can lead you the other way where like you think that you're putting in all these hours and you're not catching up with someone. So kind of knowing like yourself as a person, do you need that competition to actually like thrive, to like push yourself to be a better whatever? Or are you the person that has your own pace? As long as you're like being truthful to yourself, like I'm going home and I'm going to study for 3 hours. As long as you're hitting those benchmarks, whatever you set for yourself, don't compare yourself to other people because it'll have the reverse effect. You're a spiral.
Yeah. Everyone learns at different paces.
Yeah.
And so it's hard to, comparing is almost impossible to do. That like, I think that you're right in looking at it as a motivational source, and that, but if you can see that like the way you learn something, the way I learn something is going to be totally different and at different rates, and that I'm going to grasp something maybe before you, and then you're going to grasp something before me, and then, and so, kind of stepping back from that and understanding and kind of trusting yourself is probably one of the hardest things that we ask students to do.
Yeah. And another thing is getting a person that you can study with outside of class. Like I was super fortunate that my group of friends, like we had hobbies outside of just like coding. So like after class we would get on, play a couple video games, and then like, all right, let's do that lecture today. And then we'll all do it. We'll give each other tests. We'll like look at each other's code. Like getting that support group outside of the like outside of Learn, so you're going home and then you can like, hey, I can study with someone else, so you're just not studying by yourself. That really worked for me.
That's great advice. That's great. Like having that connection with other students is